Hey, I thought I'd do a quick overview
頼れる
for
仲間にな
Magia
れるように
X. This
努
is
力します。
a
よ
beat 'em
ろしく
up
お
that
願いしま
was
すね。
originally a mobile game, apparently. They released it on here. The developers are really nice people. They have been responding to pretty much everything that's been posted on the reviews and on the forums. They basically, in their own words, said that they removed their greed. They actually killed the mobile version to work on this version. Uh, right now, I'm not gonna lie, it definitely is the epitome of early access. You can play as one character. All these
あな
other
たのお
characters are
役
not
に立てるな
available,
ら
but I can show you.
何より
They
で
have a
す。
little preview here. This guy looks pretty cool because he's got a parry. The combat in this game is very responsive. As you know, I've been playing Godfall for the past week, and that game is really frustrating to play because of the lack of cancels and stuff.
旅の仲間って
In
多
this
い
game, you
方が
pretty
いい
much
よ
just
ね。
teleport around like Goku. It's very, very satisfying. I'd say the worst things about this game right now is probably the UI. It can be a little awkward to navigate. Some things don't make sense. A lot of times you'll click back on something and it'll take you back into the previous screen instead of just back like one step in whatever you were doing.
旅の仲間って多い方がいいよ。私の
It's a
助
little
け
bit
を
of
欲す
jank
るの
with the
か。
combat as well, which
なかな
I'm
か
going
見る目
to
がある
demonstrate
ね。
here shortly. So any of these three characters are available right now, but it seems like they're pretty close to being done. They did say that the early access period is only supposed to be a month, which seems kind of crazy. I didn't know that this was a mobile game until they actually slid into my DMs and gave me the key for this a couple nights ago. So I don't know how much was done on the mobile version, but there are no microtransactions at all. It does have pretty standard Korean MMO stuff, like
頼れる仲間
RNG to upgrade and things, but you're not spending any money in this game at all, so it's actually pretty cool. Okay, so for starters, one thing that's really cool about this game is there's a pretty extensive moveset, but if you've ever played DFO or Closers, it kind of works similarly to that, where, in DFO you have the Chronicle armor sets, and in Closers you have the core and the modules that give you awakenings for your moves, changing how they act. Once you level up a move to 20 with these runes, you can actually choose one of these other abilities as well. Looks like you have to get it to level 40 to get the second one, but the first one will be level 20, so you pick the one that you like. So I picked this big, like, Zweihander move that he does. What that does is it gives him a little bit more range on this attack, and it juggles the enemies a little bit, so you can actually cancel after that. This game is very responsive, as you're about to see, and you can continue a combo off that. So, this one doesn't look as great for my playstyle, because I like grouping all the enemies up. I'm a beat 'em up nut, so I like grouping them up, so I use this one, but you can customize it to however you like. And then a lot of games like this, DFO and Closer specifically, this kind of customization is generally tied to gear. Here is just its own separate thing, which actually feels really nice. So let's go ahead and unlock this one, actually. Let's get Type 2. Okay, so now I equip this one, and that move is permanently changed. So different ones are better for different reasons. And there's supposed to be more moves coming later as well. Okay, so that basically explains the move system. There's a couple other things in this game too. A lot of these facilities don't do much right now. You can get some quests from them, but that's basically it. Let's go into the forge and check this out. So there are blueprints in this game. If you have the corresponding gear and the components, you can actually craft things. Enhancing, it's a lot like any Korean MMO, but because you're not spending real money to do it, it's kind of one of those things you can just deal with. Pretty standard stuff for a Korean MMO. The success rate goes down as you make it stronger. There's a chance that the value will decrease. But if you put this, then it won't drop. Pretty standard stuff, and like I said, since you're not paying real money, it's not really that bad when you consider that. Let's try to upgrade one of these right now. There, got that streamer luck, so went up 3 points. So whatever the stat is here will upgrade when you upgrade it. Right now the gear is not too interesting, but the game's not done. They basically have I think like a quarter of the game done right now, so hopefully the gear will get more interesting. They're basically just stat sticks. There's nothing resembling a build system or mechanic in this game right now, so if that's your thing, you might want to wait. After you see this combat, I think you might change your mind. You might want to give this game a shot. So I cleared the story completely, so let's play through some of these levels on hard mode. The first thing you'll notice about this game is it's got that flash skeletal animation, which I'm not particularly a fan of, but I think for the purpose of this game it works. And this game is so fast-paced that you can kind of get around it. So you have a normal attack button, you have a dash, and the dash is like Goku level. You can pretty much just like instant transmission around. At the bottom you have your attack modifier button, and you do one of the corresponding face buttons and you can do whatever attack is assigned to that slot. So you have a high time, you have a helm breaker, pretty standard character action game stuff. Now this character has a unique mechanic. Every character in this game will have a unique mechanic. With him, he basically has a Dynasty Warriors charge system. Like he has this as a C1, this is a C2, and that bar at the bottom there tells you how much SP you need to cast one of those moves. Oops. Yeah, I'm not a fan of skeletal animation either. I think this game definitely has the better kind of skeletal animation for this kind of thing, but I can see how it's a turn-off to some people. But the gameplay itself is actually quite good. It's very responsive. You definitely feel you feel pretty empowered playing this. Because your guy is just crazy mobile. There is some jank, like for instance if I launch like this, sometimes the hitbox is too honest and you can't chain directly into it, so sometimes I do stuff like this. I'll do like a high time and then air dash cancel it, and then get behind him that way. It's not really something that you can't work around, but the aerial combat is a little bit slow and janky. I definitely think that's one thing I'd like to see improved as they push out more patches. The ground combat feels really good and responsive, but air combat isn't as responsive as you'd like. And this game is crazy responsive, as you see. I plowed through all the content in this in about 3 hours, and I was getting pretty addicted to it. I got pretty sad when I got to the end, and the story didn't progress, and I couldn't really level up my guy more. Another thing that's weird is you can't cancel his charge attacks into one of his actives. You have to dash cancel it. This game kind of has to be played to kind of experience how good it feels. There's a couple progression blockers in this game. I did reach a pretty big difficulty spike when I got to the other city. The enemies did a ton of damage, and I wasn't doing too much. I had to do a little bit of grinding. The difficulty curve feels a little bit off, and also, as a byproduct of this being a mobile game, there's a time limit, and the time limit is pretty much the biggest part that contributes to the difficulty spike this game has, because you have to finish the level in that time limit. I don't really think it needs to be removed. I think it would be harder for them to remove it than it would be for them to actually change it, because it seems like the entire loot system depends on your rank. So I don't think it needs to be changed. Maybe they could increase the limit or have some kind of accessibility option to remove the timer. Other than that, a little bit of jank with the UI. The UI is a little bit clunky. A lot of times you'll go back like an entire step when you only want to go back one part of a step. Things like that. The aerial combat could do to be a little bit better. Ground combat feels really good because you can cancel everything but the starting character's charge attacks. But when you get into the air, it definitely feels a little clunky. You can't cancel into things as fast as you like. The attack speed's a little slow, and the hitbox on his aerial attack is a little bit honest. So you saw me doing a high time, then dashing behind them in the air, and then continuing the combo that way. But he actually does have air combos with his charge attack system as well. I should probably show those before I go. Sometimes you cast a move and it doesn't come out. Lots of little jank in this game, but I think for something that's... they're only asking $10 for it. I'm generally shocked at how responsive this feels. You can do stuff like this, even before the animation comes out. After playing all that Godfall, this feels very responsive to play. There also are no rebindable controls in this game, so that's something that's going to turn off a lot of people, like the X or A button is on jump, square is dash, triangle is your special attack or your special ability, and then circle is your normal attack. For me, you know, I have like almost 100 hours in Assault Spy, and that game does have a very similar control scheme to this with the dash on square, but it's definitely a problem. A lot of people have not been able to get their controller to work properly either. I had to go into big picture mode and basically tell Steam that this is a direct input controller, even though I am using a non-mainstream controller, but it does have X input. It didn't work anyway. A lot of people have been reporting that as well, so that's the way to fix the controls. They're only charging $10 for this game right now, which I think is a steal. The combat is very fun. The gear could do to be a little bit more interesting. There's definitely some jank with the interface and the aerial combat, like I said, but that's nothing that a patch couldn't iron out. I think for $10, you're getting about... let's see, it took me about 3 hours to go through everything. I did do a little bit of grinding, because there's some weird difficulty spikes and curve problems in this game, but it will take you about maybe 90 minutes to 3 hours to finish. There's supposed to be a lot more content coming. Hopefully the gear gets more interesting. I do really like how responsive the game is. Also, I like how changing the moves is not tied to gear, because a lot of Korean MMOs do that, which means that whenever they power creep that gear, you lose all those cool buffs to your moves and changes and stuff. Here, it's its own separate mechanic and entity, which I think is really cool. The gear right now is basically just stat sticks. I definitely think that's something they'll need to work on in the future if they want this game to have a good lifespan, because the gear, I don't really feel excited getting it, mostly just because it's just they're literal stat sticks. They give you better stats. There's no interesting affixes on them and stuff. If they can get that kind of fun loot in this game, I think I would probably play this a lot. Anyway, that's my overview. If you're interested, go ahead and check the link in the description. You can buy the game. It is 10% off right now, so it's just under $10. I think for that, right now it's a steal. You just have to understand that the game's not finished. You're really only going to get about 3 hours out of this, unless you want to grind, but I'm pretty sure things will get power creep pretty quickly. Also, this key was provided by Superacid, the developer, so thanks to them for sliding into my DMs at like 2 a.m. my time. That's when I put up that video, as soon as they sent that to me. Thanks to them, I'll be relaying all my feedback and any feedback you guys have if you buy it to them directly, and hopefully we can get a better game overall. Thanks for watching.